Today is currently November 2nd, which means the NFL trade deadline is currently 3 days from today. And honestly, this might be one of the bigger trade deadlines we've seen in a while. I know I probably say this every year, and the trade deadline ends up being nothing short of a nothing burger, honestly. You might see 2 or 3 guys get traded, but overall, we don't usually see a number of big trades during the trade deadline like the NBA trade deadline. But this might be one of the first trade deadlines that we actually see a number of big names get traded. There are a lot of teams right now that are currently in the mix of contending, but they just need that one big piece. And there are some teams right now that are already falling out of things, and they might be more willing to give up guys to get some assets while they can. As the trade deadline quickly approaches, we're looking at 10 names that you might need to keep watch out for as this day approaches. Before we get into the video though, make sure if you haven't yet, you subscribe to my channel and tap the bell icon for future football content, and follow me on social medias down below in the description. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into this. Like most of my top 10 videos, these are not going to be in any type of order. We're just going straight off the list, so no guys should be higher, no guys should be lower. It's going to be as simple as that. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in this. Azeez Ojulari is going to be the first guy we talk about. Azeez Ojulari has enjoyed a bounce back year for the Giants in his 4th year with the team. After having just 2.5 sacks last year, he has 3 sacks in 4 games this year in his last 3 games. While Kayvon Thibodeaux has been out with a wrist injury the last couple of games, Azeez Ojulari has stepped up big time, and he's become a big part for this Giants defense along with Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. If you consider the fact he was supposed to be a depth piece or a backup edge rusher, his stats look pretty good. He has 10 sacks, 19 pressures, and 6.5 sacks. I could see realistically 2 teams going after Azeez Ojulari if they do need edge help, that being the Lions, who lost Aiden Hutchinson, and the Cardinals, who don't exactly have a lot of good depth at edge right now, especially after the injury to his brother, ironically, BJ Ojulari. He's definitely a name I would be looking at in the edge rushing department though. Sticking with the Giants, we're now going to talk about his teammate Darius Slayton, who has been a very reliable receiver for the Giants in his last 2 seasons, racking up at least 40 receptions and over 700 yards in his last 2 seasons with the team. Slayton is due for a new contract this year, and this may make the Giants more willing to move him if they do get some good assets in return or offer for him. There's a couple of teams I could see traded for Darius Slayton, and the Buccaneers are going to be an underrated one. Chris Godwin is going to be out for the rest of the season, and Mike Evans is going to be out for a while, and they don't have exactly a lot of targets for Baker Mayfield to throw to right now. Slayton can be reliable to the Giants. He can definitely find some other teams to possibly be reliable too. Mike Williams. While Mike Williams hasn't done anything productive too much this season, he is definitely going to be a hot name when a trade block during the trade deadline. Health is always a big issue for Mike Williams. If he is healthy, he can be a very solid contributor to a couple of NFL teams. After the Jets traded for Davante Adams, Mike Williams is needed less on this team now, which means he's up for grabs. And one team that I could see trade for him is the Los Angeles Chargers, his former team, who don't exactly have a lot of depth at receiver right now outside of Ladd McConkey. Reunion with his former team could definitely be up in the air. From the Chicago Bears, we have Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert is a very solid running back in this league. Unfortunately, he's getting outsnapped by guys like Roschon Johnson and DeAndre Swift, who are all better, but which is still unfortunate. Khalil Herbert has had some very great seasons with the Bears. In 2022, he had over 129 carries for 731 yards and 4 touchdowns with 5.7 yards a carry. And then in 2023, he had 132 carries for 611 yards and 2 touchdowns with 4.6 yards a carry. So far in 2024, he only has 8 carries for 16 yards and 1 touchdown. Numbers like that prove that Khalil Herbert can definitely be a solid addition to any NFL team that is in need of a running back. And one NFL team that needs running back help desperately is the Dallas Cowboys. They have Rico Dowdle, but he has been a very ineffective part in their running game at this point this season. Probably one of my more underrated candidates for the trade deadline this season, honestly. Speaking with the running backs, we're going to talk about Travis Etienne, who honestly I was not expected to be on this list at this point this season. Saying Etienne isn't even the best running back on his team right now, maybe not even a hot take. Etienne has dealt with injuries, and only in 2024 he has 56 carries for 230 yards and 2 touchdowns with 4.1 yards a carry, which isn't anything to write home about. I don't think they need to be stated. Once again, this is another running back that the Dallas Cowboys may need to look into if necessary. Etienne still has a lot of high potential due to what he can do in the receiving game, and we saw in 2022 what he can do at full health, so the upside is still there if teams want to take a shot on him. Calais Campbell is going to be the next guy we talk about from the Miami Dolphins, and it's crazy, at Calais Campbell's age, 38 years old, he is still one of the more solid defensive linemen in the league at this point in his career. Still can rush the passer at a pretty good rate, and he's one of the better run defenders in the league, once again at 38 years old. Total of 16 tackles on the season with 18 pressures and 2 sacks. Again, for a guy his age, that's not too bad. The Arizona Cardinals lack defensive linemen pretty badly, and Calais Campbell is one guy I could potentially see them picking up. Ironically, that would be going back to his former team. I've already talked about Azeez Ojulari, but Zadarius Smith might be the second best edge rusher I talk about on this list today. So far for the Cleveland Browns this season, he has 13 tackles along with 4 sacks and a total of 24 pressures, so he is contributing some big time numbers to this Browns defense. Unfortunately for the Browns, overall they're on the brink of elimination, and they're one of those teams that need to give up some assets to get some big returns right now. The Atlanta Falcons might be one team that need to look at Zadarius Smith. The Falcons added Matthew Judon, but they still cannot rush the passer, and this might be one guy that may help them boost that up a little bit. Not a lot, but at least a little bit. For first round pick in 2020, Chase Young is going to be the next guy I discuss. With the Saints pretty much losing a bunch of games and them having a lost season with Derek Carr being out, the Saints are probably going to be more willing to give up guys at this point, and Chase Young could be one guy I could see potentially trading if they need to. Young has been quietly solid this season for the Saints. He has a total of 13 tackles, 3 sacks, and a total of 30 pressures on the season to this point. The Eagles have apparently been eyeing up some guys that pair along with Trey Hendrickson, and Chase Young could be one guy I see potentially being that guy they pair him up with. And potentially that might be a pretty good edge rushing duo for the Bengals, and that might improve their defense pretty, slightly. Brandon Sheriff is going to be one of the last guys we discuss, and I told y'all before, offensive lineman is going to be a big need for a lot of teams over the next couple weeks. As the NFL season is ending, a lot of teams are going into the playoffs, and this is going to be a big need for a lot of teams. Brandon Sheriff is slowly entering the last year of his deal, and the Jaguars aren't going to be competing this year. They're 2-5, and they're on the brink of elimination, so they're going to be one of those teams that might be willing to give up some guys to get some assets back right now. Sheriff's still a pretty good guard, as in 472 snaps this season, he has only allowed 1 sack. So when it comes to the pass blocking department, he is going to be an absolute brick wall for the most part. Well, not a brick wall, but still pretty solid in the guard department. Now here's where I would say the Texans could use a guy like Brandon Sheriff. However, it is highly unlikely the Texans trade him to a divisional rival. The Ravens on one hand is one team I could definitely well see potentially looking at Brandon Sheriff for a potential trade, as their offensive line has not been great this year as well. Before I get into the final guy on this list today, make sure, reminder, if you haven't yet, you subscribe to my channel and tap that bell icon for future football content, and follow me on all my social medias down below in the description. I know I said I wasn't going to do any particular order, but with this guy right here, I am. That guy we're going to be discussing is Saints corner Marshon Lattimore. The Saints are 2-6 and they have lost 6 straight games after starting 2-0. Not only that, they are in no position to compete this year, and if they lose to the Panthers, they might need to start giving up guys at this point because it's definitely lost after that. Lattimore is still one of the better corners in the league at his age 28. He has allowed a passer rating of a 74.4, which isn't terrible, but it's not really all that great either. And he has a total of also 2 pass breakups and 8 receptions allowed when targeted. Corner is also going to be a big need for a lot of NFL teams, especially on the contender side as the season goes on. And one team that has been shopped around a lot from Marshon Lattimore has been the Kansas City Chiefs. They have Trent McDuffie, however, one of their big corners in Jalen Watson is out for the remainder of the year, so the Chiefs are definitely going to need help in that department as the season goes on and going into the playoffs. Chiefs already traded for Josh Uche and also got DeAndre Hopkins, and they have pretty much said before they are not done and they're going to be continuing to shopping as the trade deadline rapidly approaches. And the Chiefs defense already looks great as it is now. Think about how it's going to look if they get Marshon Lattimore. And just like that, we have made it to the end of this video. Make sure if you haven't yet, as I said before, you subscribe to my channel and tap the bell icon for future football content, and follow my social medias down below in the description. And I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for watching. See you guys in the next video. Peace.